How did Nebraska's offense get itself out of the mud on Saturday? Let's ask Dana Holgorsen.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, good morning. Welcome in. It is Wednesday. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. You have found the Locked On Nebraska podcast from Tuesday in Lincoln. Dana Holgorsen, the offensive coordinator, and John Butler spoke to the media along with Dylan Raiola and a number of Nebraska players. We're going to start right here with Dana and ask the question, was the funk that the Nebraska offense fell into last week for half of the game against Michigan State an anomaly? Is it something that we can expect to happen just once this season? Because for Dana Holgorsen, who's the man at the controls, it's the first time he's experienced such a dire series of events in 12 years. So said Dana on Tuesday at the podium.
Yeah, he said it was like a perfect storm. And everyone's this week is trying to get to the bottom of like, okay, whose fault is it? Like we all immediately after the game, everyone's response was, well, the offensive line is just broken beyond repair. And you hear any of the coaches or players this week to a man, they're like, yeah, I think we missed it. We probably missed a protection or two. The running back missed a protection or two. Missed an assignment, people in the wrong spots, receivers not getting separation, quarterback not letting it go. It's all of them. And so Nebraska gave up 5 sacks on Saturday, and it was, it felt like he was pressured a little bit more than that. Although the stats might tell a little bit of a different story, like the analytics might tell you a little bit of a different story. It was just something different every time. And I do think that sort of underscores like how difficult it is. Not that, this is their job. They have to figure it out. It has to be good. Right. But like everything has to go right on every play in order to get like a result that looks good. Not necessarily a good result, but a result that looks aesthetically pleasing. Like I think it underscores how difficult it is to create an offense and a thing that works in orchestra all the time. But anyway, that's a different point. So it was interesting to hear Dana Holgorsen's sort of thought process during that entire time. And he admitted, he was like, yeah, it was pretty bad for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat ironic then that on the play that Nebraska changed its fortunes in the whole game for its offensive play, the game that or the play that saved Nebraska late in the third quarter was a play where a lot of stuff went wrong.
Yeah, it was sort of an offbeat play. It was like let's go, Ja'Cory Barney kind of improvised on it.
It's almost like the football god said to Nebraska, the only way that you're getting out of this funk that's lasted for 30 minutes is if you make something good out of a play that went off the rails. And I believe it was Holgorsen who explained that Barney took the route deep in part because the place where he was supposed to be on the field didn't get cleared out from another receiver whose route got cut off. And, we know that there were some protection issues on that play, and Dylan rolled out to his right, and then Luke Lindenmeyer improvised a bit or basically just completed his assignment and sealed off the quarterback for just enough time. If you watch that play from the back, and this is like a great example of what Matt Rule talks about, where like we read too much into everything because we're spending minutes here on a Wednesday, 5 days after a game, still breaking down one play. But that's just kind of the way it is with Nebraska football. And that was a huge play in the game and maybe in the entire season for Nebraska. But if you watch the angle from behind, it was on the TV replay, you can see that there's a Michigan State linebacker who just is not aggressive enough on the play. I think if he would have gone right for Raiola when he came out of the pocket, there may not have been enough time for Dylan Ja'Cory Barney down the sideline. And I don't know what would have happened with the play if Dylan would have had to throw it away or look for a receiver on a shorter route who wasn't actually open. But the Michigan State linebacker played it more like he was defending Aiden Childs and was defending against the possibility of a run that could go for a first down. And it gave Raiola enough time it gave Barney enough time to sneak behind the defense and get open. So it took that off the plan play to get Nebraska out of a place where in 6 possessions, and this starts right after its first possession, in 6 possessions, the Huskers gained 19 yards on 23 plays. The end of those possessions were 3 punts, 2 turnovers on downs, and an interception. So Dana compared this to 2013. His mind went back 12 years ago to a time when his West Virginia team lost 37-0 at Maryland, of all places. So the good vibes for this week. I'm going to say that one, Connor, was worse because on this day, Nebraska scored 31 points offensively and 7 more with its special teams.
I keep a drive chart like of all the drives throughout the season on a spreadsheet, and it was, and I finally put in the stuff last night, put in the information last night, and it was like an absurd, both offensively and defensively, it was an absurd drive chart to just look at. Like on one hand, like you said, it was a disaster for a long period of time offensively, but their other drives, I mean, look awesome on paper. And that's knowing, okay, well, they had a long play on, one of them was one play, right? The Isaiah Hunter touchdown. And he talked about that a little bit yesterday. Defensively, it was hilarious too, because Michigan State had a couple short field scoring drives. And then the rest of their drives were like either 3 and outs or turnovers. Like Nebraska's defense was incredible, except for basically a garbage time touchdown and then 2 short field drives. I mean, like lights out on Saturday. So that's the other thing we probably haven't talked about enough from this game, for the record.
I think we're a little bit jaded on the defense because one of the things that sticks out in my mind from that game is watching Aiden Childs run 16 yards for a touchdown on a 4th and 4 play where he was running backwards at the 25-yard line at one point with the entire Nebraska defense in front of him and somehow weaved and cut his way through for a score. Like, that's frustrating to see. I'm sure that one has been viewed many times by the Nebraska defensive coaches. But before we get too much to the defense, let's listen to Dana talking on Tuesday about how Nebraska was able to dig itself out of that offensive funk from the Michigan State game. Here he is.
It was dire. Both those quarters were going into the wind. It's not the last time that we're going to face wind. It's not the last time we're going to face weather. It's not the last time that we're going to face adversity. It just, when that happens, it snowballs. And when it snowballs, you just got to have a spark to get out of it. And Dylan gave us a spark, right there towards the end of the third quarter. Didn't look like the wind affected that pass, but Ja'Cory, he ad-libbed because the inside receiver didn't clear it the way he was supposed to. And Dylan found him and that changed the whole sideline. It changed the entire sideline, and so and I hadn't been here for the last 10, 12 years or whatever it is, so I really don't care about what it's been like, but you could sense that on the sidelines. But then we made a play, it sparked us, and then we played great the rest of the game, and so kudos to our coaches for not losing their minds. Kudos to our players for just hanging in there. And then obviously our quarterback sparked us, Ja'Cory sparked us, and then we played good the rest of the way and won by 11.
I thought Dana was awesome yesterday. Like just a lot of different stuff in his thought process. And I think, well, we don't have the clip, but maybe, there's now been some growing conversation this week about like, where's Dane Key? People of course noticed that he didn't have a catch on Saturday, and Dana Holgorsen was like, yeah, he played his best game. And, the ball just didn't find him, and Hunter was the hot hand. And, then he talked about his sort of thought process and like forcing guys the ball when he feels like they're just hot for some reason. Like, I thought it was great. He's kind of a madman. He's like a mad scientist offensively. So it's good to get a peek into his mind sometimes.
Yeah, we just sucked was a notable quote.
Also, I was one of Mike Eckler's victims. I was attacked.
Yes, he was attacked by Mike Eckler after the punt block touchdown. On the subject of Key and Hunter, I think, and we'll do some of this next week at the midpoint of the season, maybe reevaluating how we see the best players on the Nebraska team, or something in that vein. And wide receiver one coming into the year was Dane Key, and a lot of that was because of the experience that he had in the SEC and being consistent in putting up numbers and making catches. I don't know if it isn't Isaiah Hunter right now, and that's not a knock on Key. It's more, I think we underestimated Isaiah Hunter coming into the season, and I believe it was early in the year we had a mailbag question about Hunter and how long we might see him at Nebraska. He's a third-year sophomore, so he's eligible for the NFL draft right now. I don't know that he's going to be at Nebraska all that long, because 1 to 2 years. Like next year, I think if he continues on this path, is absolutely the end of it. But he has a skill set, and you see it when he gets in the open field. The combination of size and speed that Isaiah Hunter has is pretty unique among players that we've seen at Nebraska play the wide receiver spot.
Yeah, I think he has that kind of smooth. Not only does he have the frame for it, like you said, but like he has that, I don't know, those NFL wide receivers, man, when they run, like it's just so smooth. It doesn't look like they're trying very hard to do anything. And he has that, he could just do stuff effortlessly. So it may age out to where he's the best guy, or like he has the best career out of the guys from this team. But
I think he will in the end. Like if you're just talking about Key and Hunter, and it's hard to project like Quinn Clark. Like, that guy could end up being.
But what about Barney? Like, Barney has been more valuable than either of the two so far.
He has, and you're right. And you talk about like the wide receiver one conversation. I still lean usually, like, just because of the way that designation works towards somebody who's your best deep threat.
Yeah.
And hey, Barney caught the Hail Mary, but Hunter, I don't know. Barney's like, he's a slot receiver, or he doesn't always play out of the slot, but Key or Hunter would be a more traditional wide receiver one, and I think Hunter's the one who's really living up to it right now.
I think you have
but Barney's your MVP.
You have Key, who's kind of like and he ain't gonna stay quiet for long. Like he is a really great, trustable, like safety net. Like he's gonna catch the ball. He's gonna be in the right place. He's gonna block the guy in front of him. All that stuff. And I'm not saying that as a slight. Like there's so much value to that. Hunter is like the home run threat, like can make a play in a flash, and Barney sort of is a combination of both, I think. So you have the setup with those three guys. It's working out exactly how I thought it would before the year. Not necessarily in the yards and where the ball's going, but just the trust factor with those guys.
It's an excellent trio. It's a complementary trio. They bring different skill sets, and it speaks to the job that Da'Keel Shorts has done to get those guys in position to feature their skill sets. So Da'Keel Shorts, by the way, was on that team that lost 37-0 at Maryland in 2013. So just a little nugget as the Huskers head to the East Coast. Speaking of the East Coast, we're going to hear from an East Coast guy. Well, we're not going to hear from him, but we're going to talk about him coming up next after this. All right, a word from Mazda right now. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Check out the Mazda lineup of vehicles for a fit that will work for you. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. It has more IIHS Plus top safety pick awards than any other company as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel that Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but every day. With smooth handling to intuitive controls, it's easy to enjoy your time behind the wheel of a Mazda and with all-wheel drive standard on every crossover SUV you will drive with confidence through almost any season. So like the athletes you watch, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved.
And a quick word from Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's built for you. It's built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does the heavy lifting for you, categorization of your spending, and you get to feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Monarch can help you identify that you're not saving as much as you once previously thought. You can discover accounts from previous jobs or increase your savings rates. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on this Wednesday. A weekly reminder to get in your mailbag questions for Friday. We appreciate those before Mitch heads out to the land of crab cakes and football this weekend. It's a big game for both sides.
Yeah, I may have to find somewhere to get some crab cakes while and what is it with the turtle? Like why do we talk about turtles when it comes to Maryland? It's not like a terrapin. That's not a turtle, is it? Like
I think it is. Yeah, I'm
is
pretty
it a type
sure
of turtle?
Yeah,
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get a DM from somebody today about.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure a terrapin is a turtle. Yeah.
So fear of the turtle. What is it? What is a terrapin?
It's a turtle.
Yeah. All right. It's a type of semi-aquatic turtle typically found in North America. Okay. That's good to know. I got a message the other day when we talked about the Clydesdales from somebody who was aghast that this seemed to be new information to me, because I talked about the Dalmatian that sat in the carriage behind the Clydesdales.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the Dalmatian before. I just didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And I'd never seen the Clydesdales in person.
It's not the headliner. Like the Dalmatian isn't the headliner. It's it's the opening
it's
act.
The giant horses.
Yeah. Right. So yeah.
I think that same person is gonna now be all over me about being unaware of why we talked about turtles.
I like that though. Like, what's the deal with the turtle? Why are they just talking about turtle? Like if they were just talking about turtles all the time, like just randomly.
No, it's a coastal state. There's probably some turtles that live out there. I don't know what a terrapin is. Come on. Now I do.
Now you do. You're about ready to learn Maryland, buddy.
I've been there several times.
John Butler already knows quite a lot about Maryland because he does, quote, as East Coast as you can get, according to him.
It's a great quote.
A great quote. Excellent.
Like, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that like he's got like a snap temper? Like if you step out of line with him, he has no patience for you because, man, I sat in traffic every day for the first 14 years of my life as I went to school. I don't know, like as East Coast as you can get. That's a great description for Butler. And this was in a conversation about Sierra Wright, who's kind of as West Coast as you can get. Sierra's chill, he's an actor, in case you didn't know, and the two of them have really bonded over the last year plus, as they were both late additions to the Nebraska team roster of players and coaches in 2024, and came in together and really kind of came into their own together. It was at this time last year that Sierra Wright came off the bench and emerged as one of Nebraska's top defensive backs, and his rise to get to a place where, as I said yesterday, he's playing at an all Big Ten level, has been such a key for Nebraska on the defensive side, because it allows John Butler to be able to be aggressive with the calls that he makes in the front 6 or 7 of that defense. When you have players like Sierra who you can trust in the back, and it's not just Sierra, it's Donovan Jones, it's Andrew Marshall in coverage, then he can do all kinds of stuff Butler can that he wouldn't otherwise do. So they're kind of an odd couple, the West Coast guy and the East Coast guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Maryland has a pretty good passing attack, and that's what they're leaning on behind their, freshman quarterback who is, quite the thrower of the football.
Yeah, he's not your normal freshman. Right, I would say, in looking at him, like he's more advanced. Okay, more advanced than in some ways, like the fit in the system and what Maryland's asking him to do. He's the real deal. Like in comparison, even to a guy like Dylan Raiola, who started all 13 games for Nebraska last season.
And with that being said, like they always have talent at wide receiver. Like that's not a position where they've had trouble acquiring guys over the last couple of years. They always send a guy or two to the NFL. It seems like they have over the last several years now, since Loxley's been there and before. So you would think on paper, like, I mean, it's challenging, and it is. It's definitely challenging, but I have a lot of confidence in Nebraska's defensive backfield. And I don't think they'll have to help those guys out too much. You know what I mean? As far as sitting back or sitting in zones or whatever it might be. No, I think they'll let them play their game, and Nebraska can do what it does up front on defense. Yeah,
that's going to be a great matchup. Malik Washington and the Maryland wide receivers against John Butler and those Nebraska DBs and how it all gets schemed up. So Butler said that the Maryland passing game and Washington in particular, Malik Washington, it's confusing when his last name is the name of another team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That Maryland just played last week, that they present the biggest threat so far for Nebraska to date. So Nebraska's played 3 really good quarterbacks, and the Cincinnati quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, has proven himself before and after the Nebraska game to be an excellent passer. He wasn't on that day against Nebraska, so you have to you say, was it all Nebraska, or what was part of it Sorsby? And then Bryce Underwood, still developing as a passer, dynamic, great runner, and Aiden Childs, really good at both of those things. And if you just look at Childs and Sorsby, they had their worst games of the season so far through 5 games for both against the Nebraska secondary. So that's obviously the standard. It's the goal that Nebraska has set out this week against Malik Washington. Make him have his worst game of the season, and so they're up against quite a challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they're going to try and get it to Farouk, the transfer from Oklahoma. He's a good Jalil Farouk. He's been around for a very, very long time now. He leads them in catches, and then they have 2 other receivers who, and a tight end that are pretty solid as well. The thing about Maryland is they're not necessarily keen on running the ball. Like, their backs are fine, but they're just not going to run the ball. So Nebraska sort of key in on some things. Like I said before, I like where Nebraska's defense is at right now. Like all of a sudden, it's just started to come to. I can't remember if you and I had this conversation on the reaction pod on Sunday, but like they're just playing some complimentary football right now. Like, and it's funny how quickly that changes. It might not be like everyone's dream image of complimentary football. Like it's not very like Big Ten hard nose, like all that stuff.
True,
but they're doing the little stuff right. They've made quite the advantage for themselves on special teams. They're getting turnovers on defense. They're protecting the ball on offense. I don't know. That sounds like complimentary football to me.
Yeah, there's different versions of complimentary football, and certainly Nebraska's playing a version of it right now. All of these metrics, I think, every year more and more of the SP plus metrics and others that get cooked up online emerge, and you're hearing about a lot of them. Like they involve like hidden yards, and a lot of it's just about defensive efficiency or special teams efficiency. And Nebraska ranks high, like the top 20 or 25 in seemingly a number of these categories. So it's a good place to be if you're John Butler. So we'll see if we're still saying this kind of stuff next week as the Huskers get ready.
It changes by the week, doesn't it?
To go to Minnesota. All right, let's take a break and save a little bit of time here. I want to get to this discussion about social media trolls that came up on Tuesday during the Nebraska media availability. That's next. A word right now from Prize Picks, and this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but with Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's yardage or Saquon Barkley's yardage, his rushing yardage, Allen's passing yardage. Maybe you're guessing on a touchdown total, and all of a sudden you are in the game. You can do it quick. You can create your lineup in less than a minute. Prize Picks just added a feature called Stacks. So if you want to ride with the player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, and their touchdowns all in one lineup. And with the new injury reboot feature, if a player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. Wednesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Final segment here. Thursday, we are going to make our picks for the Nebraska-Maryland game and take a spin around the Big Ten and college football. Huge game, college game day at Outson Stadium, Eugene, Oregon this week in the Big Ten top 10 matchup. Heisman Trophy duel between the quarterbacks, Fernando Mendoza of Indiana and Dante Moore of Oregon. So that game is on at the same time as the Nebraska game on Saturday. So get your small screen ready to have Indiana, Oregon, if you care about that as you're watching the Nebraska game. I'll probably put it on like a little minimized corner of my laptop there in the press box in College Park.
Sad. I wish they were not at the same time, but we'll figure it out. We'll deal with it, or we'll go back and watch the Indiana Oregon game in full later. If the game dictates that we have to. I don't know. I mean, I saw Signetti kind of playing it cool yesterday, trying not to get under the skin of Dan Lanning because he knows he'll take his anger out on like a punching bag. So we'll see.
Lanning's the one guy in the conference that you don't want to piss off because he's going to go volcano mode and like on his players with his players in the locker room before the game. And Oregon will then come out and light you up, especially if the Ducks are at home.
It's a great weekend in the Big Ten. I mean, Michigan, USC this weekend as well. And then Ohio State and Illinois. I mean, who knows? I suppose. Although I get a little turned off by every Ohio State matchup, unless it's
that's big noon this week. Gus and Joel in Champaign.
Yeah.
Second time in 3 weeks.
For the second time in 3 weeks, you believe that? Yeah. So I mean, there's kind of been like this flattening of the Big Ten, and Penn State's out of the picture a little bit now, and it's an Iowa-Wisconsin week, and I always enjoy watching Iowa-Wisconsin because I like to remember the Big Ten West at times. So it's a game. It's a good week in the Big Ten.
Yeah. All right. We've delayed enough. On Tuesday, we heard from Nebraska offensive guard Henry Lutovsky. Henry is not a frequent visitor to the media sessions, although he has been stepping it up as a leader on that offensive line and bringing himself into the public eye. Represented Nebraska at Big Ten Media Days. We heard from him in August during preseason camp, and it's cool in a week where the O-line has given up 12 sacks the past 2 games that he comes forward and takes questions. We don't get to hear from Donovan Raiola during the season because the assistant coaches don't do the regular media appearances. They just leave it to the coordinators. They don't want too many voices, I suppose. It would be nice. We used to hear from position coaches throughout the season. It would be nice to get a little bit more from those guys. They do the radio network show, but that's about it. So here comes Henry, a captain, and his media session went pretty much as you'd expected, talked about what's going on with the line and how they need to play better and some of the things that he likes and growth that he's seeing. And then he was asked at the end about hearing criticism and how he deals with criticism that he and the other linemen hear during the season. And here's Henry Lutovsky's answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always important to remember that, the guys maybe, DMing you after a loss or whatever, never played ball in their lives. They don't know what they're talking about. Like maybe one guy does. No, like what they say does not matter. The only opinions you should worry about is from yourself and from, we say it all the time, like, don't take advice from a person you wouldn't trade places with. Like, if I wouldn't trade places with some random guy sitting on Twitter DMing me, why would I take his advice? I'll take my coaching, take advice from like those close people in my life, but that's it.
Okay. What do you think?
I think it's a great attitude. I mean, like it's exactly what you're supposed to do. When this is the norm. Like if you're an athlete in the public eye, you play every game on television, you're gonna hear from people, whether it be in your fan base or people who bet on you or against you or whatever it might be. And people have access to you. If you are not emotionally like able to handle those things, like you got to close the DMs, you got to shut it down during the season. But if you can, clearly Henry can, then you look at it or whatever it is, or don't look at it and just brush it off the shoulder. See you later. Sadly, it's a part of the deal. It shouldn't be, but it is a part of the deal.
I think it impacts some of these guys, and
he
can say, I'm not going to listen to that guy because I would not trade places with him, and there's no reason for me to take advice from somebody who I don't know. He can say that, but you can kind of hear it in his voice that it does. They do see it, and it does have an impact. I would strongly advise them to not read the DMs from people who they don't know. Like, you got the category of people who you follow and they send you DMs and they come in and you get them, that's fine. And then there's the other category that's mostly junk. And if you don't know a person, it's going to go in there. I would just treat that as the trash if you're a Nebraska offensive lineman or a college athlete, period. But we know that's not always reality. Like these 20-year-olds, some of us who are more than double their age, you can live your life through that social media stuff at times if you're not careful. And this is what they grew up with and how they communicate and how they interact. So it's there and it gets to you. Also, if you are actually a fan and you're not a troll, you're not somebody from a rival program or a disgruntled bettor, even if you are a disgruntled bettor, stay out of the players' DMs. Like, complain to your buddies, whatever. Be upset that you lost $20 on the game, but stay out of their DMs. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's that gonna accomplish? But I'm yelling into the abyss here because no one is admitting to doing that. So
yeah,
but it's happening.
Weird. But you're right. We've talked about this before on the show. Like, people see it. Some players handle it differently than others. Some players, see this would be like it's akin to before ever. I don't know why it's getting more personal these days. Like, guys are actually sliding into guys' DMs and saying these things to them. But like, I remember after games where it used to be like, players responding on Twitter because they had searched their names and not they had not their they didn't get added, they literally
no DM just
names, and would start responding to people.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody handles it a little bit differently. It's a tough deal,
and maybe it's not them. Maybe their brother or their dad search their name, which certainly happens. and they see it, and then it gets sent to the player. I don't know. It's an unhealthy thing, and some of this also you have to take into consideration that these guys are pro athletes now. They're professional athletes, so fans feel more empowered to believe that they have a right to complain, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Like, technically, if you're buying tickets to go to a Nebraska game, or even if you're watching a game on TV, you are contributing to the revenue share pool. So you're paying their salaries, I suppose. Yeah. I would not interpret that as you believing that you have a right to go and insult them in their DMs. But people are going to do what they're going to do.
I don't know that people feel that way. Like, hey, whatever. You hear people say that sometimes. Like, I watch the games and I pay for merchandise and I pay for hot dogs, so I should, I'm entitled to this now. Like, whatever. Like, it takes, in my opinion, I can't imagine that the kind of person who would want to say these things to these people in their direct messages. Like, I can't get in that headspace, so I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, I just don't do that. That would be my advice.
Whatever it is, this probably isn't going to help clear out Henry Lutovsky's DMs. No. Like, him going public with this might encourage more people to send him DMs. But I hope for him that he shuts it off, and I imagine he probably does. He's an older guy, but if he's getting it, then there's younger guys who aren't as mature as him who are also getting it, and it's it's a factor. Okay. Enough of that for the week. We'll be back on Thursday with our predictions and more breakdown of Nebraska, Maryland. And then on Friday, the mailbag show. Thanks, as always, for following along, liking, subscribing, everything that you do to help make our podcast go. It is another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview show. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 is there. So is Gary Patterson, Jesse Holley, Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.